our webinar. I've got the lovely Jill Trotta with me, and we'll get started really quick. And so there is no, because we've got a lot of information to cover, and this class will be based on how do you handle an incoming call and not drive yourself crazy, right? And because your customer, right, Jill?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, picking up that phone, making it ring, and is a great thing.
We were discussing before we came online how an incoming call is literally the most difficult challenge that people face every day, and there's really no game plan with 95% of the shops. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, the phone ringing and you pick it up and you don't know who's on the other end, and you don't know what their expectations are, you know, you don't know what their questions are, you don't know. There's so many you don't knows.
When you talk to shop owners and service advisor, how many of them do you think, if you polled them out of 100 people, would say that they're better than average of answering the phone?
Probably less than 50%.
Yeah. Well, that would be the right one, right? If you're better than average, there's only 50% of the people. But you know, I did this poll and said, okay, out of 100 service advisors, and we actually polled a lot more than that, but we'll use 100. So let's say it was 1,000. Out of 1,000 service advisors said, rate yourself. Are you below average, average, or better than average? And 75% stated that they were better than average.
Wow, now I can tell you, we used to track data on when we called into shops, because during our certification process, we call the shop probably anywhere between 5 and 10 times. So each time, for a period of time, we rated the phone skills of the person answering the phone. And the data that we came up with was less than 12% would be what I would consider acceptable phone skills.
Acceptable?
Acceptable. Or, yeah, acceptable.
I was expecting you to say 12%.
Did I think that they had a good concept on answering the phone? And less than 12%, I would say they're pretty good. They were good at it.
I was hoping for exceptional, not acceptable.
Exceptional. The exceptional would be a lesser percentage than that.
So I think about that 75% said that they were above average, which we know is mathematically impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more than that. When you ask them if they're a better than average driver, 85% say that they are.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm an amazing driver.
Well, I figured you would be, right? That's good. So we'll get straight to it. And the webinar that you're on right now is called Lifetime Value of a Customer, because a lot of people don't really think about what the lifetime value of a customer is. And so it really is a lot of money if you just think about what that means. So my name is Barry Barrett, and I know it's an odd name, but my mom gave it to me, and she wasn't a hippie, so that's good. Barry Barrett. I'm with RLO Training. I teach specifically service advisor training, so I go across the country and I do a lot of webinars like this and teach people how to answer the phone, teach people manners. Somebody asked me what I actually do for a living. I said, well, I teach people manners. And so it turns out that it's marketable. And then professionalism, and then how to increase your average ticket by being more professional, answering the phone the correct way. And then this is Jill, and Jill, I'll let you tell a little bit about yourself.
All right, my name is Jill Trotta. I'm the director of the automotive group here at RepairPal. My team is in charge of the certification program, the RepairPal certified program. We set the criteria, we take people through the application process, we do the customer reviews. I have over 25 years of experience in the automotive field. Started out as a technician. I am currently ASE certified in 6 areas, and you know, worked on cars full-time for about 5-6 years, and after that moved into the front and was a service advisor, service manager. I worked in fixed operations and dealers, did some parts for a while, owned my own shop for a little bit, and here I'm at RepairPal.
I love it. Highly qualified.
Yeah, I've been in it a little bit. Well, I'm also a certified recreational therapist, but that really is not here nor there.
Oh, I love that. That's a great. That's interesting.
I went
There's
to
no doubt.
college, did that, and then then went to trade school. So
I tell people I went to college and saw what they knew and found out what they knew, and here I am.
yeah.
So good deal. Well, we're all in good hands with Jill on the line, then. So, Jill, tell us a little bit about RepairPal. And first of all, I'd like to see, what are your criteria for becoming certified?
We're looking for the best shops, and we truly vet them. So shops that have a good warranty, shops that invest in training, shops that treat their customers really well. Shops that are established, they've been in business a while, and have all the right business practices set up to make sure that the customer experience is really well and that cars are fixed right the first time. Did we lose you, Barry? So I'll wait for Barry to come back. So RepairPal is that we have the largest site on the internet right now for auto repair, and we get about 5 million visitors a month.
All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened there. I apologize, Jill.
No problem.
Okay, so good. So that's the certification process. Now, what I want to know is why answer the phone? That's one of the big things that we talk about, is why even answer the phone if 12% of people aren't even doing acceptable, so why do we answer the phone? And so the reason we want to answer the phone is, what is a customer worth to you? And when we do the breakdown on the average customer in our industry, it's about $3,000 a year, because people have 2.5 cars per household. I don't know where that other half a car comes from. I've never seen a half a car driving around. But 2.5 cars, so about $3,000 a year. All right? So when you take that $3,000 a year over the next 20 years, or in a lifetime of customers, we estimate that one customer is worth $60,000. So when your phone rings, there's $60,000 on the other line. Jill, how many people that you listen to through your recordings answer the phone like there's $60,000 on the other end?
I'd say less than 10%.
Right? Do they think about the fact there's 60,000?
Yeah, you get people pick it up, they feel rushed, they are just trying to get through the call, and they're not trying to earn the business.
Absolutely. So it's worse than that. There's actually 100,000 if you look at it, because of referrals. And who do people refer to you? And it's the raving fan type mentality, right? So, and we're the average of the 5 people Jim Rome said that you spend the most time with. So if that customer's worth $60,000 and they refer to you someone just like them, then it's at least worth $100,000, that one customer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we need to figure out why we answer the phone and what a customer's worth to you, and really make sure that we're paying attention to those customers. Now, the next thing that I ask people is this. Now, I get in a room with 100 people or 20 people that are in a live class, and I say, raise your hand if you want to learn a script today. Now, Jill, out of 100 people, how many people do you think will raise their hand and say they're fired up about learning a new script?
Probably nobody.
So, yeah, it's really rare. Now, the next thing I ask, I say, well, let me ask you this. If you don't like to learn a script, raise your hand if you'd like to learn how to do a professional presentation every time. Now, what do you think the hands look like?
I would say probably all of them.
It's pretty much near 100%. Now, the bad news is I tell them the joke's on you. They're the same thing. Because if you don't know what you're going to say before you say it, you're going to go into uhs and ahs, right? And you're thinking about what you're trying to say next. So what message do you send when you're doing a professional presentation? I can well imagine you go to this big event and there's a keynote speaker up there and they have no idea what they're going to say next. And they would lose the crowd because they would not know what to say, and they would and ah and well and all these filler words. So if you listen to the recordings, which I know you guys record and really encourage people to listen to your recordings, you are going to hear those filler words. Am I right?
Absolutely. We really encourage folks to review their calls, to review all the calls that are on there and really break them down.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there's a thing called the first burst. Have you ever heard anybody talk about a first burst?
No.
Yes. So a first burst is something that you can control. I talk about the day. You can't control your day. There's only 2 times that you can control any part of your day, and it's the bookends. You can control the beginning of your day, and you can control the end of your day. Everything else in the middle seems like it's just up in the air. Have you experienced that?
Yeah.
So when we talk about calls, I talk about you can control the bookends of your call. You can control the beginning of your call, and you can control the end of your call. And in the middle, you can have a lot of control, but there are some ways where it's going to go a few different ways. But if you learn the proper questions, you can, for the most part, control the middle of your call too, and we're going to get into that today. But what message are they sending? You'll see that the first thing we have grumpy on here, right? Because most people, when they pick up the phone, they hear how much is, and then whatever the is, whether it's a water pump or brakes or whatever. As soon as they hear that price shopper, what do you hear, Jill?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What do you hear when they say how much is from the service advisor? Isn't it usually oh my gosh, just another price shopper?
I think it's
you hear their tone of voice change?
Yeah, and they get that
so
really irritated and kind of pensive, and it's like, oh my gosh, why are you calling me?
Right. And then the other one, I like most of them, 80% of them are grumpy. Then there's another 5% where they sound sleepy.
Yeah.
So they're one of the other girls, right? They sound sleepy. So we need to make sure that we're sending a message of cheerfulness every time that somebody answers the phone. So what message do you want to send? And that's the cheerful message that we're glad you called, no matter why you called. And so we need to have a first burst that takes care of that. What can we say that gets the conversation going? Now, the first thing that we do is smile, because everyone knows that you can hear it on the other end.
Yes.
And so you smile, and then you say the proper greeting. Thank you for calling Joe's Automotive or wherever you're working. Because most people that I listen to in the beginning, they simply just say Joe's Automotive.
Yep.
Is that where do you hear that as well?
Yeah, sometimes not even that. Sometimes just, hello, how can I help you? And I'll have to be like, well, did I just call Joe's Automotive? And they'll go, oh, yeah.
Right. Who am I calling?
And one of the points
Absolutely.
I want to make, too, is about the smile, is that when I had my shop and when I was a service advisor on the phone every day, I actually put a small mirror on my computer screen. So that way when I answered the phone, I'd like take a second, look in the mirror, make sure that I was smiling, and then pick up the phone.
I love the mirror idea. And I tell people that now. I'm like, instead of because some people put a smiley sticker on there, and I'm like, get a mirror, because if you get a mirror, you can see exactly what you look like, yeah. Right? So from time to time, I do that even when I'm on a sales call in my job that I do now, is I make sure I go and look in the mirror and see how I look. I used to, my son, he's 12 years old, and oftentimes, they'll walk around with this scowl on their face when they have to be doing some things or whatever, and he'll be just standing around with a scowl on his face, and I say, look, are you happy? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, I tell him, I'm like, well, tell your face. And so, he hates that. But hey, if we're happy, we need to tell our face. So before we pick up the phone, we need to smile, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Nalu says, if you don't explain the why much, you'll never get past the how much. Man, that's good. And I've known Bill Nalu for a while, and he's a pretty excitable guy, and I know he smiles every time he picks up the phone. And
I think he
that's
just
the thing.
walks around smiling.
He does. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a saying that says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and it's Simon Sinek. And that's what we really need to explain, and we'll get to that in this presentation of why you do what you do. It's not so much what you do or how much you do it for. Because when they call your automotive repair shop, they know you fix cars, right? There's no doubt. And they're not calling you to get their hair done. And thank God. So the first thing we do is we say, thank you for calling, whatever shop you're working at, and then you give your name. This is Barry. How may I help you? How may I serve you? Any one of those things that you can say. So that's the next thing we do. We want to give a name. And then the next thing we want to do is, how may I help you? Or with whom am I speaking? A question to get who they are. Mm-hmm. Right? And then we need to listen, which is what a lot of people have trouble doing, is actively listening. And there's different tools that you can do with active listening. One of them is called mirroring that I love. I love to mirror someone's question or someone's statement and turn it into a question. We may not get into that today, but actively listening. And then whatever they're saying, we respond with another question back to them. Okay? And then ask more questions, because the quality of your questions will determine the future that you experience. If you ask your kids better questions, you'll get better kids. If you ask your spouse better questions, you'll get a better spouse. If you ask your employer better questions, you'll get an better employer, and customers are no different. Does that make sense, Jill?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
The problem is that traditional school beats the question asking out of us and makes us into statement givers. And I'll give you an example. In school, you go to the history class, they want to ask you history questions and they want the right answer, right? And the right answer is king. Well, if you think about life, questions are king. So what we want to do is retrain our brain into asking questions. So the first question that I give a statement first, actually. I smile and I say, thank you for calling RLO Training. This is Barry. How may I help you? And I make my voice go up, right? And then they'll ask, how much is a water pump? And I'll say, I can help you with that. So I give a helpful statement. And then I ask, may I get your name and number just in case we get disconnected? So I give them a reason to give me their name and number, okay? And then the next thing, they give me their name and number. And then I say, the next question that I like to ask is, would you mind sharing with me who referred you? What do you think about that question, Jill?
I think that's a great question because, different people come from different sources, and you might want to talk to people differently, and it's important to know, who gave you that business or what investment you're making that return, that call is a return on that investment.
Yeah, and you'll notice that I don't ask, how did you hear about us? Because it's more impersonal that way. Mm-hmm. If you say, would you mind sharing with me who referred you? Then they're going to tell you, if it's RepairPal, they'll say, oh, I was on RepairPal's site, right? It's still going to get you the information that you need. And then right there, I'm going to take and then I'm going to have a Me Too moment. This is where we build rapport. Whenever we ask who referred you, if they say RepairPal, Google, my friend, whatever it is, the response that you need is to build rapport. So if they say RepairPal, you say, oh yeah, I love that website. They really help our customers understand the pricing that comes with each repair. And I hope you found it really helpful with that partnership. So that's is that a good response, do you think, with your customers?
I think that's a great response, especially, one of our missions is that we're collaborative and that we partner with our shops, and we really work hard to work with them to, to help, to be a help. So it's always good to, put that handshake in there between partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And then now you tell them RepairPal is a great partnership, and we're glad that we can have a partnership with a collaborative partnership with RepairPal, us, and you as a customer. So now we're bringing in that customer to our partnership, right? And that's what we really want to do, and that builds rapport, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And so that's right here, when I ask about who referred them, is where I'm going to build that rapport. Okay? And then I'm going to say, would you mind sharing with me what makes you think you need a water pump? Notice that I didn't ask why you need a water pump. And have you ever thought about the difference between what questions, how questions, and why questions, Jill?
Not so much.
Why questions are very off-putting. And I don't really care what environment you're asking them in. You got to be real careful asking why questions, because why questions are blame questions. If you read the book, The QBQ, he talks in great detail about these questions. So if I said, well, why do you think, Jill, why do you think it's the water pump? That can be seen as very abrasive. But if I say, Jill, what makes you think it's a water pump? Do you hear the difference in the what and the why?
Absolutely. One way's a little more,
me being a southern,
a little smoother.
Yeah. Me being a southern guy, I always ask people, would you mind sharing? And because it's so low profile. So the question is, would you mind sharing, why you believe it's this price, okay? And then they're going to share, and what kind of responses do you think you can get at that point? So give me a couple of responses, Jill, that you think you may get as far as what makes them think that they need a water pump.
Well, my brother-in-law told me that that's what the water under my car was. It's my water pump leaking. He's a mechanic.
And right here's where you have to be careful, right? Because now you've got a family member who's a mechanic, who you and I both know probably is not a mechanic, right?
Yep.
But we still have to protect their feelings. And I say, hey, Jill, no problem. I bet he's a pretty good one. But I'll tell you, I've got about 4 ASE certified master technicians here at my shop, and they'll all tell you that a second opinion is the best thing that they can get. Now, the good news for them, Jill, is they've got 3 second opinions right there next to them that they can go to. And I'll bet if you asked your brother-in-law, he'd be honest with you and tell you that he needs a second opinion sometimes too, wouldn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why we want to have an ASC certified technician run a series of testing procedures on it to isolate that issue and then properly inform you on how to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they're going to say yes, and then you can invite them in. So that's the basic infrastructure of my presentation. And so those questions can be, and we can control the bookends, but with those questions, we can control the middle. Can you see how that's possible?
Mm-hmm.
Because people are eerily predictable. So then we're going to invite them into our shop, and then we're going to confirm the appointment. Now, you guys listen to recorded calls, Jill, and we talked a little bit about this, and you record calls. Explain to the students exactly how this works.
So any call, so when you become a RepairPal certified shop, we assign you a tracking number. There's several tracking numbers that are assigned to your shop. So when consumers come off our site, they call in through those numbers. All of those calls are recorded. So it's a really valuable tool to be able to go back and dissect the call and, you know, decide, did that person come in and become a customer? Or if they didn't, then you can use it as a training opportunity to figure out where the breakdown happened that you were not able to convert them into an appointment.
Now, does this measure satisfaction? Does the shop have to do it themselves, or how does that work?
You're assigned an account manager, and they'll actually listen to a good amount of your calls and kind of put a little bit of feedback in there. And there are also flag calls that they think that you should listen to. So if you're not listening to them, they do listen to them. And if they think that there's something in a call that needs to be reviewed, that you can see there's a review tab. They'll collect it, that they reviewed it, they'll download it, and they'll send it to you. So that way you have it, and you know that this is something that, in their expertise, and they listen to thousands of these calls every month, that their expertise tells them that this is something that you might want to bring to your attention.
So you have a number of account managers that could constantly monitor these accounts and listen to calls themselves. And can they tell the shop is listening to these calls as well?
Yeah, they can tell if they've been listened to. We can, you know, we have an online portal, so we know who logs onto it and who doesn't.
I'll tell you, I always say that recorded calls are the second most important tool that I have in my bag when I'm training service advisors. And so when you can listen to calls, know what it's supposed to sound like, give them the presentation, the professional presentation, to make sure that they're using their first verse, that they're asking the questions, that they're controlling the conversation, and then you plug it in. I'll tell you what I like to do, and you may or may not be able to do this, but I do, is I will take students that are performing really well. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I have a student, and I've been training him, and he's been in the business he was a former technician, and he's been a service advisor now for about 8 months. And he gets around other people, and they do the shop talk thing, right? They become mini techs, and they start to talk to customers as mini techs or full technicians, and so they start talking over customers' heads. And he gets caught into this, not using his first verse, not using the script, and then the call lasts about 15 minutes. It goes off the rails, they don't come in, and then he gets frustrated. But he feels like he's using the presentation. Have you ever had that happen, saw that happen as you listen to these calls, Jill? They think they're doing it correctly, and then they listen. Yeah. So then I played a call from a young service advisor that I've been training for 3 years, and she is on it. And that's why she keeps getting training. She loves training. She came into this business 3 years ago. She was an ice skater. She sold ice skates for a living. Never had a car background. Knew nothing about cars. And the first thing that we taught her was phone skills. We started very early, very often, taught her phone skills. And once she got phone skills, we transitioned into receiving customers into the waiting area. Once she got that, we transitioned her into learning about inspections and what cars do and don't do. Then we transitioned to her and doing outbound calls and actually selling the work off of the inspection. And then we transitioned her from that to the next level, right? We keep going to the levels. But now, 3 years later, I'm using her calls as what to do in live classes. Because I know whenever I pull one of her calls, it's going to be about 90 to 95% exactly how a call should go. And she showed up 3 years ago doing nothing about cars or car repair. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. And I think that consistency is super important as well, because when a consumer comes into a shop and they get one experience, and they come back the next time and it's different, then that creates a disconnect. But if there's a routine and there's a script and there's a way in which everybody is handled the same, then that creates consistency, and that makes people comfortable. They know what to expect when they walk in the door, or when they've called, they know how that call is going to go.
You know what's, another point I just thought about of this young lady. She could, at this point, 3 years later, write her own check. That's why I won't mention her by name online, because I think people will start to hunt her down and try to recruit her out of the business. And she could probably write her own check to go to another shop, but she wouldn't, because she values training. She values the work and the listening, the calls, and the effort and those things, because not everybody will invest in employees, right? Yeah. And you know what the funniest thing that I see in business is this. People will say stuff like, well, I'm going to see if they'll make it 90 days, and then I'll invest in their training. And I think, man, you are wasting your honeymoon period. That's the best that's the most open they're ever going to be to learning new things that first 90 days, and you destroyed it by waiting 91 days.
Yeah.
And then using tools like that you can offer them with RepairPal, right?
Yeah.
So we don't give them tools in the first 90 days in hopes that they're going to make it. It's madness. So good. You have to use this. This is one of the primary tools in your shop that you have to use, because when you hear what you're saying on the phone and you can't hide from it, you start to change, because you're A, embarrassed, right?
Yeah.
That you sound so bad. B, you see yourself as an above-average person, above-average service advisor, and now we need you to get you to perform above average, and you can't hide from the recorded phone call.
Yeah, and I think if you consistently listen to your calls, then you become used to it, and it becomes a powerful tool for you to make constant improvements, and just adjusting a word here and there can make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, one word makes all the difference in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the value of the word, and most people downplay stuff, and they need to be more emphatic. Some people are so emphatic, and they might want to downplay certain places, but you don't even know what you sound like right there. And so price shoppers, and I know just with your business model we talked about, if somebody's going to RepairPal to find a shop near them, they're literally going there to shop. And you gave me some numbers. Give me some numbers that you shared with me earlier, Jill, before this class, that the percentage of people that go online, and some of those things you were sharing with me.
Absolutely. One of the really powerful things that we have access to is we have access to about 4 to 5 million site visitors every month. So we put up surveys and ask questions. And one of the questions that we've asked over and over again and consistently get the same answer is, did you check the price of the auto repair? What percentage of people are checking the price of an auto repair, either before, during, or after the transaction? And we consistently come up with between 80 and 85% of people are going online and checking the price of an auto repair. Now, the really scary thing about it is when we ask, at what point in the transaction did you check the cost of that repair? And 40% of the people said they checked it after they'd already authorized the repair with the shop.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's staggering, right?
Yeah, it is staggering, and those are consistent numbers. We've done this same survey many times.
So do you have numbers that show what percentage of people picked high, medium, and low?
People
like this percentage picked the higher price.
We do have some of those, and people, they do tend to pick, when presented with quality or price, they'll choose quality. When presented only with price, they will choose toward the bottom of the pricing spectrum.
So have you ever heard of persuasion?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So there's persuasion. Have you ever heard of persuasion? There's persuasion and there's persuasion.
Persuasion, no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's a real thing. There's a book called Persuasion, and it talks about what you just mentioned. So persuasion is this. So you go into a grocery store, right, Jill? and somebody walks up to you with a clipboard, and they say, "Hey, would you mind taking this 2-minute survey?" What do you say?
Sure.
See, you're one of the 24%, and you know what, Jill? I had a feeling that you would say sure, because you're so nice. Every time I meet you, you're so nice. Listen, I'm going to say no, okay? Yeah. So you're the 24% of the people that say sure. Well, listen, an overwhelming majority
says no. Yeah.
76% of people say no thanks. Now, if I walk up to the same group of people and I say, "Hey, do you see yourself as a helpful person?" And they say what?
Sure.
They're going to say, yeah. Everybody. Now, the follow-up question is, well, would you help me out and take this 2-minute survey? The number went from 24% of people to 77% of people said yes.
That's
so
amazing.
The point is, what you just said, like people who say they're shopping for price will pick price, and people who shop for value will pick value, okay? So now we're going to do another survey on persuasion. They had a mattress store, and they came in, and behind and the background of the person that they talked to were clouds. And in the second group of people, they were pennies. Well, overwhelmingly, the 100 people that they had that came in with clouds in the background picked comfort, even if they came in originally for price. And the people who had pennies in the background, even when they went for comfort, changed their comfort to price, just because they were being persuaded by the picture in the background, right? So why do I bring this up? Because when someone asks price on the phone for an automotive repair shop, I'm going to say, well, Jill, let me ask you, other than price, what else are you going to base your criteria on?
For me,
that's going to make, well, anybody. Yeah. If they say price, right, how much is? I'll simply ask any customer, well, besides price, what else are you going to base your criteria on, your decision making on? What other criteria are you going to make your decision on?
Yeah.
Then they have to think about something else besides price, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So
I am persuading them, because I'm going to ask them to pay more later, right? Because there's a number of people on the call right now, and I'll bet you 90% of them are not the cheapest in their market. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Because A, people who actively take training aren't underachievers, so they're not cheap. And B, I know that your customers that value your product are not cheap. So I know that they have to make sure that their customers are thinking value over price. Mm-hmm. And we can change that value over price if we ask questions like, what other criteria are you going to make your decision on? Or you can ask something simply like this: is price the only thing important to you, or is quality important as well?
Yeah.
And they're usually going to say quality, right? Because we don't see even cheapskates don't see themselves as cheapskates. They see themselves as frugal.
Trying to get the best value, right?
Right. So what we need to do is we need to have at least 10 reasons why I should bring my car to your shop other than price. So price shoppers. So I have more than 10 reasons, and I'll go back, sorry about that, why I should bring my vehicle to your shop. 10 reasons. One of them is, a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. Most people that are high-level shops are going to this model. Haven't you seen that?
Yes, yeah. We require 12-12. The majority of our network of the 2,000 shops sits in the 24-24, but increasingly
right.
Shops are moving to the 36-36.
Oh, and I say you better.
Mm-hmm.
3636 is like, and pretty soon I think you're going to see a 5-year warranty.
We do have shops that have lifetime.
Yep, I've got a couple of shops that I serve that have a lifetime. Now there's some provisions, there's some exclusions from that, but because it can't be a wearable item, right?
Yeah. And the car needs to be properly maintained.
So, it's got to be properly maintained, yes. And so 10 reasons, one of them is a warranty, a quality warranty, nationwide warranty, right? What's another, I call them USPs. What is a unique selling proposition that your shop has over another shop? ASE Master Certified Technicians, right? Mm-hmm. State-of-the-art equipment. One of my pet peeves is when people call their equipment scan tools. Yeah. Because when you say we have scan tools, like they think it's, a parts.
The little code pullers that they.
Right. But they think that is because that's the verbiage we use. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, we have state of the art. How much training do you send your technicians through, right? Yeah. At our shop, we tell people we send them to over 100 hours of training a year. Well, we do. We require at least 8 hours a month through local providers, and then we do 10 hours a year of in-house after work training on inspections, on just various things in our shop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we tell our customers, we invest, each one of our technicians does over 100 hours of training a year to make sure that we can isolate the issue that is going on with your car. So these are the USPs I'm talking about. Can you think of a couple of USPs that in your, because you have a lot of experience, what are some USPs that we haven't covered?
The amenities are a big thing. Like, do you provide the conveniences that a customer needs to have leaving their car be as painless as possible? That's a big one,
If they're waiting on, go ahead.
Yeah, do you have a place for them to wait if they want to wait?
Right. So I try to get people to step up more than that. I don't know. We personally love to target realtors. So we go to our local real estate agency. It's called LBAR in Lexington. They have an association. They have a building they go to. And we go to this association because realtors drive a lot of miles every year. They usually like to have a nicer car. They have a disposable income. They have to have their car, and they need it turned around quickly, and they need all the amenities that they want, right? Mm-hmm. So realtors also work from their laptops. So in our shop, we have built a business-only room that when you go in there, it has a Starbucks feel because Howard Schultz, the Starbucks is the third meeting place away between home and work, right? Mm-hmm. And so we thought about that concept and how it works, and we put these high top tables with high top chairs. They have Wi-Fi available that's very quick, very fast. They have their own place to go. We have installed USB outlets for their phones in each part of the outlet. So we replaced the regular outlets with two outlets with two USBs input, right? So they can charge all their devices. And we have made this business-only room that they enjoy.
Yeah.
That's a USP, right? So they can do their work while they're there. So, figure out ways to do that. Good amenities, right? And then we have Starbucks coffee, we have the Keurig, we have complimentary water and bottles of water, and just they're guests, right? One of the old sales tricks is hand somebody a bottle of water because once you do, they're your guest.
That's true.
So you have to have 10 reasons why people would rather take their car to your shop that you can explain over the phone. Now, this is the RepairPal Fair Price Estimator. Tell everybody how this works.
So our estimator is state of the art, and you know, a lot of people have different opinions about it, but when we built the estimator, and especially we'll be launching a new rebuilt, updated estimator in the next month, we use motor data to get the labor times, which is motor supplies all data. There, you know, it's industry standard labor times. We do a lot of research on what the labor rates are in certain areas, but we also do a lot of research on what the labor rates should be in certain areas, because we find that like 75% of the shops in our network have labor rates that are too low, and that they really need to revisit that. And our parts, we mark them to OEM list, because OEM list is definitely not the cheapest, and our estimator is definitely not designed to be a cheap price estimator. It's designed to be a fair price estimator, so when consumers come onto our site, they can get what a quality shop installing quality parts and offering a good warranty should charge to do that job. So, you know, it's a good bridge for consumers and for shops, and you know, we've talked a lot, and people in the industry definitely talk about not quoting prices over the phone. And our estimator is a really good tool to put in the consumer's hands so that you don't have to. And it's giving them a neutral third party to double check your work on. So if you have a customer who is already your customer, then it's not so important. But when you're talking about converting leads and you're talking about people calling in and asking you about price, this is a really good thing to give to them. And you can tell them, you can look up whatever you want to replace on your car. You can see how much your brakes are, your water pump, or you know, your wheel bearing. It's all in there. And one of the other really powerful things is that if you are a RepairPal certified shop, we stand behind the prices in the estimator. So, you know, just like anything, there are mistakes that happen. So if there's a problem in the estimator, we ask that you submit to us. We do a quick investigation, usually within hours actually. And then if we are wrong, we reimburse you the difference or the consumer. We like the shop to reimburse the consumer or discount the RO, just to make so the shop has that power and they're seen as the good guy, and then we will reimburse you. That's one of the big values of being a RepairPal certified shop. And I can tell you, we get about 500,000 estimates a month that are run through the estimator, and we pay about 10 to 15 claims a month. So, you know, mistakes do happen, but the really powerful thing is once that mistake happens, we fix it throughout the system, including in motor data.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and this is kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, I think, because most people are afraid of price. Haven't you found that to be the truth?
Oh, yeah, totally. And I can tell you, when I first joined on with RepairPal, it was one of my big concerns about aligning myself with being, you know, with price transparency, because I've attended hundreds and hundreds of hours of service advisor training, and I would never quote a price over the phone, just wouldn't. And, you know, this isn't really quoting a price over the phone. It's actually giving a customer a tool and then opening the door for you to be able to have the conversations that you need to have and not constantly fighting against that price question.
I think that and if you think about it, the range is good because they understand, when people understand the range and they see it like it is right here, that they can justify even paying on the high end of it.
Yeah.
If you can explain your unique selling point to someone, and it is valuable for them because you've asked them what's valuable to them and you position your USPs to what's valuable to them, they'll pay a higher range. Jill and I asked Jill a question before we got on the phone. I said, you know, in a perfect world, what would she want? And she said, well, honestly, I want you to come to my work and pick my car up, fix it, and bring it back to me. And she said, I'll pay you more for it. And I said, done. Right, Jill? just without batting my eye, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll send somebody over there to get your car, and you'll pay for their time. So yeah, sure. And so we want to be able to use the tool and not be afraid of the tool, because a tool you're afraid of and don't use is not a tool at all. We want it to be a resource. So that's good. You said that you were updating. Are you able to share the update, or is that too tough?
We've added about 44% more repairs and updated labor times and updated labor rates. The initial estimator was actually, it was all hand built and hand updated, but that was 8 years ago. So we've constantly been improving it, but there's a big update so our estimator now, the estimator times and everything will update quarterly now. So it'll be really up to date. Before we did updates to it, but literally we had to do data entry to fix it. And this is a living, breathing estimator that is now fed by many different sources. Quality, the parts are representative of quality parts with a good warranty, and what a good shop should charge.
Yeah, Bill asked the question, why is doing it right and doing it once not the cheapest way? And he makes the point after that, says I know he's a top shop, we top shops are the cheapest. It doesn't look like it to the customer unless we explain that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The least expensive, fix it right the first time, because you have the revenue to pay for the proper equipment and the proper training and the proper people. Because, there's a book that talks about being humble, hungry, and smart, and that's what Bill is talking about right now. You got to be humble and have humility about going along with your work. You got to be hungry. You got to want it. You got to want it more than everybody else, and you have to be smart, which is hiring the best people because of their attitude more than their capabilities, because people with the right attitude will become more capable and really capable.
Yeah, so, I agree. I do a lot of consumer press for RepairPal, so I do a lot of radio interviews, print interviews, and things. Constantly ask the question, what's the cheapest way to get my car repaired? So where do I go to find the cheapest way? And I always say the cheapest thing you can do when repairing your car is get it right, fixed right the first time by a shop that invests in training and has the right investment in tools and treats you well. That's going to be your cheapest route. Fixed right the first time by somebody who knows what they're doing. Because if you have to go back and back and back, every time you go back, that's more money.
Absolutely. And time is more important than money, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can make more money once a minute's gone. It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. So that's good. And then one of the questions that I love to ask is, you got to develop your response. This is one that I do, because when people are pushing me for a price, I talk about trust and how we built. My thing is I say we built our reputation on trust, and that's very important to me. And we wouldn't want to start our relationship built on false information. So to give you a price over the phone is to say that is to lose trust, because would you be surprised that 70% of what we see is either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed? I had a shop measure for 2 years when someone said that they thought they knew what it was over the phone. 7 out of 10 times it was either misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. So 70% of the time I was giving you misinformation. So when we start our relationship built on that information, it's never going to start off well, right? So what I will tell you, you have to practice that to deliver it with excellence. But whatever your delivery is, you have to practice it and keep smiling, right, Jill?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us about the reviews. And before you do that, if anybody has any questions that they want to type in, like Bill has, we would love to answer any questions that you have in the last 5 minutes of our conversation. But tell us about the reviews, Jill.
So RepairPal has a verified review process. So once you be a RepairPal certified shop, at no additional charge, we stay connected and we review your most recent customers, and we expose them in your on your profile and in your portal on your dashboard for you. You know, the constant customer feedback is a really powerful tool, and you can't just go on to RepairPal.com and leave a review. So your competitors can't go on and like dirty up your reviews. You have to be a verified customer to be able to leave a review.
That's fantastic. I wish Google would do that.
Yeah. You used to be able to go on and leave reviews, and then we took that feature away just because it required so much monitoring in shops. It was constantly going back and forth with shops because people would come on and just leave weird things.
Absolutely. All right. So the shopboard dashboard, I'll let you talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah. So then, once you become a RepairPal certified shop, you get a dashboard view, and the review monitors the calls that we sent, the tows that we sent, and how many messages you received in that month as a result. So it goes in, it checks, and it exposes that for you. So it creates that trust and transparency that we work really hard to do. You manage your profile, you do everything through there. This is where you go to access those calls, so you can listen to the calls, you can make notes about the calls. It's a powerful tool.
Fantastic. And any questions, comments, or rude remarks? Me and Jill, we take them all.
Yeah.
So good deal. Well, since there don't seem to be any more questions, we appreciate everybody visiting. Jill, tell them about the special offer that you got.
So if you sign up as a result of this webinar, you get $49 application fee. The normal application fee is $199, and then you get your first month free as well, and then it's $199 a month after that. And we don't have any long-term contracts. We ask that you stay 90 days. And the reason why we ask that you stay 90 days is because, like any marketing program or anything that you implement, it takes a little while to ramp it up. But after that 90-day period, if you want to part friends, then we do. So we don't hold you. But we create an environment where you're going to want to stay. So.
Good deal. And so if you want to supercharge this, I mean, there is no better way. When you have a tool and you get the training, if you're interested in training and getting results from these phone calls and sharpening your skills and knowing exactly what you're going to say and do to get the customers in and get that $60,000 customer that turns into $100,000 because of referrals, contact us at RLO Training, and we'd love to be able to serve you and your team.
Yeah.
All right.
And one thing I do want to add. One thing I'll add here at the end is that we review, as a part of the process, I've probably reviewed about 4,300 shops. And the one thing that is lacking is training in the front of the house. The training that a shop will have invested a ton of training in the back of the house, but the investment in the service advisors is seriously lacking, and it's desperately needed.
I talk about it being a pseudo profession. We treat it as a pseudo profession, and it's just not. The same process that I teach service advisor, like the step-by-step process, is exactly equivalent to the step-by-step process you teach technicians in diagnosing a vehicle and repairing a vehicle. It is not anything magic. Salesmanship is not the gift to gab. It's not convincing people. Influence has a strategy and a step-by-step process. And so when you influence people better, you get more sales. And it's the only way. Like, you should be delivering a 3-hour HPRO, hours per RO. If your service advisor is not producing 3 hours an average RO, they are not highly effective. And I know you can say, well, in my area, well, that's what prices are all about. You know, prices are higher in big cities, prices are lower in small towns. So if your pricing model is right, you can get 3 hours in RO. Does that make sense? And the only reason that most people don't, there's 2 reasons. They're not doing good inspections, and their service advisors can't sell.
Yeah.
Because I'll say this, and I'll end with this. I'll say by raise of hand. I love by raise of hand, right? By raise of hand, who in here sees themselves as a salesperson in a service advisor class? And only like 30% of them raise their hand, Jill.
Really?
And then I say, well, raise your hand if you're not a service advisor, if you don't see yourself as a salesperson. And then not everybody will raise their hand, right? And I say, well, what are the rest of you see? Who doesn't see yourself as any service advisor or a salesperson? And then somebody raised their hand. I'm like, what do you see yourself as? Because I said it was who's a salesperson, who's not a salesperson. That's what it is. So we have to get into this mentality because you cannot consistently perform at a level that is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. So if you don't see yourself as a salesperson, how are you going to sell?
That's a good point.
Yeah, you can't be a duck and not see yourself as a duck. All right.
All right.
You need Amandor. Is it Amandor Rivera? Thank you. I think you're awesome too, me and Jill.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day, and it was an absolute pleasure, Jill.
All right. Thank you, Barry. It was fun.
Thanks. So, trying to see how I stop this now.